Okay, today we will be doing work with absolute value, and here are our lesson objectives. Understand the absolute value of a number as its distance from zero on the number line, and interpret absolute value as magnitude for a positive or negative quantity in a real world situation. So these are the two standards that will be addressed um, in today's lesson dealing with absolute value. So absolute value is a number's distance from zero, and you can see in our example here we have a number line, and if you look at both -5 and 5, they're both 5 units away from zero. So even though that -5 is a negative number, if you were to go from 0 to -5, you're still moving 5 places away, which is the same as the distance from 0 to 5. The absolute value of a number is the distance of that number from 0 on a number line. Because distances are always positive, the absolute value of a positive or a negative number is always positive. And you'll use those absolute value bars to indicate that you're taking the absolute value. So that is why the absolute value of -5 is 5, because its distance is 5 units away. So here we have a number line, we have different values on that number line, and we need to find their absolute values. So for A, the absolute value of -9 is 9. For B, the absolute value of 7 is 7. For C, the absolute value of -4 is 4. And for D, the absolute value of 2 is 2. So if we continue that, the absolute value of -10 is 10. Absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of -8 is 8. The absolute value of 1 is 1. The absolute value of -7 is 7. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. And it's the same with larger numbers. The absolute value of -23 is 23. The absolute value of 41 is 41. The absolute value of -38 is 38. The absolute value of 114 is 114. The absolute value of -132 is 132. And the absolute value of 506 is 506. When using an inequality to compare absolute values, it's important to take the absolute value first before comparing. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. The absolute value of 2 is 2, and since 4 is greater than 2, the absolute value of -4 would be greater than the absolute value of 2. So make sure you're taking those absolute values first before comparing. And there are a number of situations where you'd use absolute value to interpret real world situations. Here we have Keith's bank account statement. You notice he has deposits where he's putting money into the account. He has withdrawals where he's taking money out of the account. And then you have the balance, which is how much is actually in the account. So if we go through Keith's bank account here, you'll notice that on June 24th, he withdrew $490, which left him with a balance of -$170. And so, but we wouldn't say I have a -$170 in my account. You would say that you were overdrawn by $170. Here we have 3 animals and their relative position to sea level. You see we have the dog up on the cliff there, and he's 35 feet above sea level. The dolphin is 6 feet below sea level, and the octopus is on the seabed 40 feet below sea level. So we could use positive and negative numbers to show the elevations. So since the dog is above sea level, he would have a positive 35 feet. And since both the dolphin and the octopus are below sea level, you would write their elevations as negative. But if the question was to decide which animal is farthest from sea level, that's where we would need to use the absolute value. The dog would still be 35 feet away from sea level. The dolphin would be 6 feet away from sea level. And the octopus is 40 feet away, which means the octopus is farthest from sea level. And if the question was which animal is closest to sea level, it would be the dolphin, because the dolphin is only 6 feet away from sea level. So in our situation here, Joe owes his sister Lisa $12, his sister Kelly $18, and his brother David owes Joe $20. So Joe writes the number -12 to represent the amount he owes Lisa. What number should Joe use to represent the other amounts given above? Well, let's start with Kelly. Kelly is in the same situation that Lisa's in. Joe owes Kelly money as well as Lisa. And so since Kelly is in the same situation, since Joe wrote -12 for Lisa, Kelly's number would be -18. Same situation, different amount. But let's look at David. Okay, David owes Joe money, which is the opposite situation that Lisa and Kelly are in. So David's not going to be a -20. David would be +20. And then finally, which person owes the most money? That would be good old Joe, because Joe owes a total of $30. Now, there would be some situations where I would accept David as an answer if your interpretation is based on David owing $20, and then if you look at Lisa and Kelly as separate situations, I could understand an answer of David. And our final example for today, at a parking garage, you can park underground or above ground. The lowest part of the underground parking is 40 feet below ground level. The highest part of the parking garage is 20 feet above ground level, and the limousine parking area is 23 feet below ground level. Use positive and negative numbers to represent the locations with respect to ground level of the 3 different parts of the parking garage. So if we start with the lowest is 40 feet below ground level, so that would be a -40. The highest part of the parking garage is 20 feet above ground level. That would be a +20, or you could just put 20. And then finally, the limousine parking, it's 23 feet below ground level. So that would be -23. And then part B, which part of the parking garage is closest to ground level? 20 is the one that's closest to 0, so the highest part is closest to ground level. And that is our lesson for today. And as always, I hope this helps.